Hi, I'm just heading to the final meeting of what has been a really interesting 2-week trip, going to meet with Meta to finish off. Getting driven there by my driver, Waymo. Say hello to Waymo. Look, it's been, as I said, a really interesting last 2 weeks, meeting with a range of tech companies and then into the Morgan Stanley TMT conference. At the Morgan Stanley conference, there was the CEOs of Microsoft and NVIDIA, also the CFOs of Meta and Google. We had presentations from the leaders of the 2 key AI labs in Anthropic and OpenAI, and also quite an interesting presentation from SpaceX. But it really was representation from pretty much everything in technology, anything from software to payments to security to internet, and representatives of pretty much every element of that compute stack that is so important right now in the age of AI. Now, in terms of the key themes, well, really, as you can imagine, there was only one, and it was all about AI. And it feels like AI has hit a real inflection point with the release of the recent coding tools and what they can underpin. Now, at a high level, it seems like we'll all be a whole lot healthier in the future, given some of the presentations from the AI labs talking about health now being a key focus and being on the cusp of some significant scientific breakthroughs. On the negative side, if you take the extremes, it feels like there should be real concerns for knowledge work jobs, given these AI agents can start to replicate quite a significant amount of some of those knowledge worker tasks that a lot of us currently do. So hopefully it lands somewhere in the middle. Hopefully we'll all be nice and healthy, but we'll still have somewhere to go for work. So that's my hope in terms of how it all plays out. Now, in terms of stocks, the AI inflection really does filter down to 2 key areas, and that is the compute required to back it and also potential disruption. So in terms of the compute, look, what we're seeing is, some real pressure right the way down the chain. You don't see that any bigger than what we currently see in memory, where you're seeing some real price breakouts given the supply chain is so tight, and that's having an impact on companies that rely on memory, such as smartphone and PCs. But also the demand is really flowing through to some of the companies' earnings. We've had NVIDIA and Broadcom earnings this week, and both of them were exceptional. So what is the real question from here is the duration of that demand. And when it comes to that spend, obviously, any presentation or meeting with a hyperscaler came to the scale of their spend and how they're actually going to generate returns. And the pushback has been that spending on data centers has fundamentally changed. It's no longer a cost element, it's a revenue generator. And that compute equals tokens, and tokens equals revenue. So we're going to have to really keep an eye on that revenue coming through from that compute to get a real handle on the durability of that spend. The other element that I mentioned, all about disruption, and we haven't seen that any fiercer than in the software element of the stack. And what we saw this week were some pretty vigorous defenses from some of the software companies, such as Intuit and ServiceNow, talking about the importance of governance, security, and also the uniqueness of their data that is really required as an overlay to just letting AI agents run wild, particularly in an enterprise setting. And so that is an area that will continue to evolve. But like I said, we've seen some fairly vigorous defenses of their place in the stack from some of the key software companies as we've gone through these last couple of weeks. Now, we're back next week, so we'll be able to, I guess, more fully distill our thoughts, and we can get back in touch with some more tangible outcomes. But from now, me and my Waymo driver, we'll head off to this last meeting with Meta, and we'll talk to you all next week. Thank you.